For the first 28 years of my guitar playing life, I had one main guitar that I used. I tried a bunch of kind of inexpensive secondary guitars here and there, but they always ended up getting sold. I did have one other top brand guitar I got in the late 90s that I ended up giving to the other member of my band Answer Infinity, the other guitar player, and he ended up writing a song on it about how much he wanted to kick my ass, but that's a story for another video. Anyway, the thing that occurred to me after 28 years of guitar monogamy is that for the cost of a mid-priced car, you could have a score of some really nice guitars. Who needs a car? This video is going out by request. One of my subscribers asked if I could show my collection, and so that's what I'm going to do. And strap in, guys, this one might take a little bit, but you're going to see some cool guitars along the way. So I guess if I bought a car, I could have had these cool going style doors, but instead on my guitar, I ended up with my first instrument that I bought, first serious one after the original, is this cool Swedish built guitar here known as a Strandberg. Now, I did end up putting different pickups in this guitar. These are lace pickups. I don't even remember what it came with anymore, but it just sounded okay. I wanted something different, and I experimented with these. I hadn't heard them before, and I got them put in, and I was really happy with it. It's a very varied sounding guitar, which I'll show you in a moment. Anyway, the idea with this guitar was to have something that was light and easy to carry around. The no headstock thing takes away from the weight a little bit, and I can play a lot in practice. I like to play standing up a lot, so I've got a guitar strapped on me and I'm walking around the house, even standing up while I watch TV and practicing scales. And this guitar is actually a little bit more like, the action's not real high, but it's more resistant than my original guitar, so practicing on it makes you a little bit stronger, and it feels like everything else I play on the guitars that I generally use is a little bit easier. And again, this thing has a wonderful sound to it. I do have a review of it that talks about all the different features, because there's a lot of weird stuff about this guitar, so I'll link that up here. And why don't you take a listen to how it sounds and how varied these lace pickups sound. Moving on with my guitar, I need a really cool Hurst shifter because I'm like 80s and I love that kind of stuff. And in the form of a guitar, that is this cool Schecter with a Sustainiac pickup. And what is a Sustainiac, you ask? This thing plays real well, and it's a very solid rock and metal style guitar. I've used it mostly for the Sustainiac on recordings, but I take it along to quite a few gigs as well. I'll link my full review to this one too, in case you want to check that out up here. Every cool guitar needs a big block 8-cylinder motor, and so we got this thing over here, a Skervesen 8-string guitar. They call it a Swan. This thing is a beast, and to be honest, I can't play it that well yet. I'm still learning how to play 8 strings. It's got bare knuckle pickups in it, and they have just like the most brutal sounds you could get on a metal track, but they're versatile too. You can do a lot of really cool things with them, and it's one of 2 Skervesens that I have. Take a look at the sounds on this thing. If I could learn how to play it better, maybe I could do some damage. I should probably like put a call into Tosin or something. Yeah, he probably knows it's me calling again. Yeah, so I've got a couple of acoustics too. I barely play acoustic, and this by far is my most neglected guitar, but it does sound beautiful. This is a Taylor, and I can't even tell you the model name. It's a big body dreadnought thing that sounds cool, and I don't even tune it normally. It's got this weird kind of tuning that I'm using on it currently. And I actually got this guitar before Guitar Center became a big thing from a local place. It was called Victor's House of Music in Ridgewood. And I had them line up all these different acoustic guitars that I thought were cool. And I kept playing them until I eliminated down to just the two that I liked, which was a Martin and this one. And I like this one. It was just a little bit more full bodied with a top end sheen as well. It's a brilliant sounding guitar. Oh yeah, and to keep the analogy rolling, if we're gonna build a good car, this would be the wood paneling on the side that you need on every cool car, right? So cool. So cool. I'm not sure if it's wise to keep the analogy going, but I'm a dad, and dads tell bad jokes, so I'm gonna run with it. If I had a car, the car would have an engine, I think, right? You need an engine to get anywhere. And the guitar version of that, all the cool engine parts comes from this cool builder in San Diego called Kiesel. And this first one that I bought from Kiesel, I actually got on Reverb used, and according to the seller of it, it was one that Jeff had built for himself. There was a message in the back of it that he had written to the guy whose name I think was Vince, and I have to say, this thing plays like a dream. It's a wonderful guitar. It's got the Lithium pickups, but it sounds a little more unique than the other Lithiums I had tried, maybe because Jeff had built it for himself, like he said. It's got a nice palette of tones available to it. And this is one that I use for drop A tuning. I've got a couple 7 strings that I use different tunings on, which we'll get to as I go. And as far as ease of play, this one is probably the closest one to my #1 most awesome guitar, which we're going to get to. Let me show you how this sounds with like a mid-gain tone here. Well, because I had such a great experience with that 7-string, I decided to order a custom 6-string of the Aries model as well. And I had seen a picture of this online. Somebody else had the same, not the electronics, but the same physical, the colors, this build, the same wood. So I sent it over to them and said I'd like this guitar built, but with these specific electronics, which are the Lithium pickups again. And as I said, they don't sound quite the same as the other one. But the one main thing I wanted on this, it's a 3-way with a push-pull, and I have this little switch here, which takes it out of phase. If you have both pickups on, they go out of phase with each other, and it has this really cool effect, like almost like when you turn on a wah pedal and it takes out a lot of the signal. And with Answer Infinity, when I was playing live, we had a song that has a part where it kind of has like that AM sound on the guitar, and I could hit it out of phase like that and make that very small guitar sound so that when you get to the next part, it sounds really big. And I've got a full review of this one as well, which I'll link here. I review it both talking about it, and I have a no talking demo of it as well, which is just the sounds. I'll also link that. You can check it out. Continuing along with all the engine parts in my guitar with my Kiesel engine parts here, I picked this one up on Reverb next, and I like to call it my FrankenKiesel because it has been through so many changes. I'm pretty sure I drove my guitar techs nuts with this one. I didn't quite like the original pickups from when I bought it off of Reverb, and so I put some Seymour Duncan, there were P-rails in it, and I ended up not liking those either. And so because I like the lace pickups and the Strandberg so much, I had a pair of lace pickups put in it originally, and then ended up replacing the middle pickup with the lace as well. This had a piezo in it, so the electronics in it were really complicated to do, but finally I got it done, and you can see it's got a bunch of switches on it. I can coil tap. This thing in the middle here is actually a stack double, so I can coil tap any one of these things, and I can have this pickup on, these 2 pickups on, these two. It goes on every possible combination of 3 pickups with coil taps you can make, which turns out to be 27 different combinations, is what I can do with this guitar. I tend to use this one mostly for my fusion tracks. I put those up on Spotify, or just started doing so under a different name. I'll link that here in case you're interested in hearing some music that's not my normal metal type of stuff. The most recent Kiesel electric I got is this beautiful puppy right here. Like the other one, I saw a picture of something very similar, sent it over to them, and ended up ordering it with Fishman Fluence modern pickups. Isn't this thing beautiful? I did end up switching out the pickups for Fishman's Tosin Abasi set. And I should thank the guys at Mobile Guitars for doing that for me. They did a great job. And the reason I did that, well, generally the sound of it, but also it has this third voicing on it. So I have two push-pulls on this guitar, and it's got this third voicing, which is really spanky, almost telly, single coil Strat sounding on it. Gives me more options. And my last Kiesel, for now, is this beautiful Coalwood 12-string that Fleek over there made. I picked this up at the factory when I was there, and it looks amazing, and it sounds as amazing as it looks. Now that we've got all these great engine parts, we need a freaking turbo too, right? Enter this sexy ass Mayones Hydra Elite. It's got Seymour Duncan, Nazgul, and Sentient pickups. It sounds as badass as it looks, and I've got quite a bit of detail on it in this video here where I do a shootout with another guitar. I'll keep this one in standard B, and I haven't written a whole lot on it yet. I've got like pieces of songs and cool riffs that I've written, and as I finish them, they will of course go up on my Spotify channel. And not to get all last century on y'all, but if my guitar is going to be this thing I build, it's going to be gas powered, not electric yet. And the guitar that I would call my gas tank for this thing is an Orsmby guitar. I don't have it here now. It's with my techs. I'm making some changes to it because I decided to tune it down, the whole guitar down a whole step, similar to, you know, Dimebag Darrell's tuning. And I want those guys to set it up properly so that it works in that tuning. And this guitar is actually one of my least expensive ones. It comes from a company in Australia. And I've got a full review video of it here so you can see it. And I'm not just talking about something that's in the air. Check it out over here. You probably saw this one sitting on the tree there behind me. And I am going to double or even triple down on my stupid guitar analogy and say that this is a supercharger for it. And yeah, I've got a supercharger and a turbo. Fight me. This is one of 3 PRS guitars that I own, and it's probably the most gorgeous. It's their 25th anniversary model, which you can kind of see up here in the headstock. It's also known as a 513 because it's got 13 different sounds on it. And as you would expect from any PRS guitar, it plays like a dream, and it is versatile and sounds really cool. I use this one quite a bit live, and for writing and recording, I tend to use it on more of my bluesy tracks. I don't know why, but this kind of brings out the bluesy and like old 70s classic rock kind of feel out of me. And guitars are like that. Different ones inspire different music, and that's the cool thing about having more than one. I had a cool car. I promise you that it would have a loud-ass muffler. But instead, I have a guitar, and I have this freaking awesome Skervesen Raptor. Again, this is the Polish manufacturer, same ones that make that 8-string, and I love this thing. I've got it tuned to drop C, and I have 11s on it. I pretty much play 9s on almost every other guitar I have. This is the only one with a heavier gauge, and I still find it pretty easy to play. I like this so much that I am going to look for another Skervesen at some point and use it in standard tuning, because these are just wonderful guitars. And I do have this in a battle, the battle for Poland between Mayones and Skervesen. Check that out. Every car needs fenders, and so does every guitar. So I saw this one at NAMM 2020, which is also where I got really sick. Don't know if it was the coronavirus or not, but man, did I get a bad fever when I was there. And as I said before, I don't play a whole lot of acoustic guitar. I'm really an electric guy, and I wanted something that I could play that felt kind of as easy as an electric, but I could use in situations where I'm hanging out at parties, whatever, at other people's houses. We do a lot of hanging out outside around friends by the pool and whatnot. And there's a couple of us that play guitar. It's fun to jam around. And that's what I use this for mostly, but it's also got the emulations of different acoustic sounds in it. So it's great in the studio when I don't want to have to get out mics and do all the complicated stuff to make a great acoustic sound. I can kind of get it through here electronically. And like on a bunch of these guitars, I do have a full review of it. Again, I'll link it up here. You guys have about 1 million links here for me today. I do want to note that I just recently put half flat wound strings on this, and these are 9s as well, which you think would not sound very good in an acoustic environment, but this thing sounds bright and still full. It works really well, so it's a real great hybrid between electric and acoustic. Speaking of emulating sounds, if I had a car, it would have an awesome stereo that sounded good with any kind of music. Rock, jazz, crazy, weird Indian music.
when I'm in my hanging out with Ravi Shankar phase.
If you guys know this channel, you know how much I love modeling technology, Axe-Fx, Kemper, all that stuff, and that's what this guitar is all about. It's a Line 6 Variax, and as the guitar goes, it plays pretty well. I kind of wish I could take the guts of it and put it into something like a Kiesel or one of my other guitars, so I have something that has that real buttery feel. But this guitar, I'm going to have to do a video on separately. It does everything from 12 strings to different tunings to dobros and sitars like you heard in that little clip there. And all that's built into it here, and you can USB plug it into the computer and some software comes up and you can edit it and store things in banks on it. So I like this thing a lot for live use when I want to be able to change tunings on the fly or use different kinds of sounds without having to switch or take a whole rack of guitars with me on the road. Now, I won't say those emulations are really as good as the real thing, but in a live situation, this really gets the job done. And for things like the dobro and sitar, I will use it in a recording situation. I like fine craftsmanship, and if I had a car, it would have a really sweet leather interior. Now this guitar seems to be a love it or hate it type of thing. My bandmate, who I showed you before, thinks it's the most ridiculous looking guitar ever. I've got some friends who think it's the most awesome looking thing ever. Regardless of how you feel about how it looks, this Paoletti Telecaster sounds wonderful and plays like a dream. I tend to use it if I get into a bluesy John Mayer type of feel. That's really what it brings out of me. And I've got a full review on this as well, linking it up here. This one I got most recently. Instead of putting a nice step-up bar with a custom logo on my car, I got it A because it's the 35th anniversary model for PRS, and I've got the 25th and the original, so, you know, OCD. And B because I wanted to try out one of their less expensive ones, the SE model, which are manufactured overseas. I ended up really pleased with it. I tuned it down a half step. Of course, I got a review of this as well, which I'll link here. And I did some custom work to it. I got these wood knobs on it, and I'm going to have my mobile guitars guys put locking tuners on it and probably wood pickup bezels, I think they call them over there. And I like that it's got individual coil taps as well, like my one other guitar there. That's a cool feature. I like that kind of control. We are almost up to my #1 best guitar. There's 2 more to go first. And I like to keep my guitar cool with a nice radiator. And yeah, that's probably not a very sexy analogy, but what I have here, because I like the Mayones Hydra so much, is I got a Duvell version of the guitar, something with the headstock here. And this one I keep tuned down to drop D. It's also got the Sentient Nazgul pickups. It's a good metal, hard rock sounding guitar. Plays real well. Even though it sounds and plays great, for some reason I didn't quite make the love connection with this guitar.
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to put this one up on reverb, and unfortunately this is what happens sometimes when you get guitars sight unseen. You know, I picked this one up off of reverb as well, where I get a bunch of stuff, and there's no problems with it or anything. And I do like the Mayones brand, but I think I want to get one with a different finish, and I guess it's kind of shallow, you know, caring completely about how it looks when it plays well and everything. But I know that another one with a different finish that I might like a little bit more is going to play just the same as this one here. So next time I'm out in San Diego, I'll likely go to a place like Pitbull where they actually have these guitars in stock and I can check them out and play. And now the last piece of the car I could have had, it's all about appearances, yo. That's right, I'm dropping the cool window tint on the guitar with this cool Indonesian-made Lionheart guitar. This one was a bit of an odd journey for me. It's one of the first ones I saw before I had any other kinds of guitars, and I dreamed about having one for quite some time. They're just works of art. I had seen the builder on Instagram showing builds as he was doing them, and I fell in love with how it looked. And when I finally got it, I was actually a little bit disappointed with it. The pickups have a little bit of a lower output, and the guy I got it from had it in some kind of weird tuning that had it bent up. I had to have a lot of work done on it, and it didn't play very comfortably. And I had done a shootout with this guitar in another video, and I didn't give it the highest marks. But in the time since then, I've actually really come to enjoy it. This is a guitar that I kind of started to fall in love with. It just took some time. And I've got it tuned standard B, but down a half step. And I've started using it. It's got some unique sounds to it. I dialed in custom sounds on the Axe-Fx for it. and I'm writing a tune with it, which is going to be out in the first quarter, not on my Mark Tiara Spotify, but with my project with my good friend in Utah, which is the Unite the Divide project. I'll link that up here. Look for it in the first quarter of 2021. That song will be with this one. And now for the #1 best Oh wait, I almost forgot. If you're going to have a car, you need some tires on it. And I think you can tell from the kind of car I build, I'd have some pretty cool fat tires. These two Sucop basses are such an integral part of my sound, and I'd be holding them both, but they're freaking heavy and it's a lot to hold into a video at once, so you get these PNG overlays here. I got these at that same local store that I got the Taylor at, and I loved them so much. I asked them to put me in contact with the guy who makes them. He's just a single builder, from the way they told it to me, lives in the woods in upper New York State and doesn't really like talking to people that much. But they gave me his email address, and I sent him an email, this big long explanation about how much I loved his guitars and how they were such pieces of art, and asked him if he would build me a guitar using the same kind of look and everything, and his response was no. Just that one word. That was the whole email. So I guess he definitely doesn't like people, but good thing he makes some of the best freaking basses on the planet. Okay, now for reals, my #1 best guitar. Nothing I have plays nearly as easy as this. You probably saw me holding it back at the very beginning of the video there when I flashed that old picture. This is a PRS Custom 24 that was built in 1987. It was the first serious guitar I bought. And as far as how it plays, I thought maybe it was just my bias from having it as my only guitar for all those years, but I've had a number of very knowledgeable guitar players and collectors who've also picked it up when they visited or I brought it over for jams, and all of them have said they hadn't played anything else that plays like this, even other Paul Reed Smith guitars. I don't know if it's because it's one of the very early models. Maybe Paul Reed had his hands on it himself, or hands in building it himself, or maybe it's just some special lightning caught in a bottle, but this thing just plays like nothing else I have. And sound-wise, it's got a wide palette, it's got a 5-way rotary switch here, and the sweet switch, which is kind of like a coil tap, but not quite, it's their own thing. And the second position puts the pickups out of phase as well, which is similar to what I had on that one Kiesel there, and why I ordered it that way, so I'd have another guitar that I could do that with. And if you're following any of my music at all on Spotify or wherever, and shameless plug, please check it out. There's a good chance any of the lead guitar you heard was done on this. Even in songs that I write on other guitars, a lot of the times, like 80–90% of the time, I go back to this guitar to record the lead parts because of how it feels and because of the sound. Anyway, I'll say it once again, I'm going to do a full demo on this. I don't have one to link for you yet here today, but I will get to it and we'll do a full workup on this guitar. Until then, if you've made it this far, I am super impressed. You must love guitars as much as I do. And remember, if you want more of them, just get rid of your car and start hoofing it. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.